PIL and judicial activism. Public interest litigation means litigation in the interest of public entered judicial process in 1970. This type of litigation was innovated by judges to provide equal access to the unprivileged section of the society. The idea of PIL came from Actio Popular is of the Rome jurisprudence which allowed court access to every citizen in the matter of public wrong. Development of PIL has provided significant assistance in making the judicial activism meaningful. On account of this type of litigation, the court has found opportunity to give directions in public interest and enforcement the public duties. The role of judiciary activism. The most important power of Supreme Court is the power of judicial review. In particular, the review power means that the judicial can interpret the constitution and the laws passed by the legislature. If the court arrives at the conclusion that the law is inconsistent with the provisions of the constitution, such a law is declared as unconstitutional and inapplicable. Judicial activism may be defined as dynamic process of judicial outlook in a changing society. Judicial activism is all about providing a good governance and ensuring the safety, security, and welfare of the society. The decision of Golaknath versus State of Punjab, Keswanand Bharti versus State of Kerala, Minerva Mill versus Union of India are worth putting forth. The color of judiciary activism changed with the Supreme Court judgment in S.P. Gupta care, where in S.P. Gupta case, whenever it was pronounced that any person could file a public interest litigation for another affected person who was deprived and could not approach the court. Case study: Air India versus Nargis Mirza air hostess case. In Air India versus Nargis Mirza, the service regulation pertaining to the retirement of air hostesses of Air India and Indian Airlines was challenged as being violative of the right to equality under the Indian Constitution. The Supreme Court upheld the condition permitting the termination of an air hostess's services on her marriage within the first 4 years, but invalidated the condition that terminated her service on her pregnancy. Keswanand Bharti vs. State of Kerala. The Keswanand Bharti judgment is a landmark decision of the Supreme Court of India that outlined the basic structure doctrine of the Constitution. The Supreme Court held that although no part of the Constitution, including fundamental rights, was beyond the amending power of the Parliament, the basic structure of the Constitution could not be changed even by a constitutional amendment. Shahbanu case, a 62-year-old Muslim woman was divorced by her husband in 1978. She filed a criminal suit in the Supreme Court of India. She wanted alimony from her husband. Supreme Court delivered a judgment favor maintenance given to aggrieved divorced Muslim woman. Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. Shreya Singhal versus Union of India is a judgment of the Supreme Court of India on the issue of online speech and intermediary liability in India. The Supreme Court struck down Section 66A of Information Technology Act 2000 relating to restrictions on online speech as unconstitutional on grounds of violating the freedom of speech guaranteed under Section guaranteed under Article 19(1) Section A of the Constitution of India. Visakha vs. State of Rajasthan. Visakha and other women group filed public interest litigation (PIL) against State of Rajasthan and Union of India to enforce the fundamental rights of working women under Article 14, 1921 of the Constitution of India. The Supreme Court laid down some guidelines in the Visakha case pending formal legislation for dealing with sexual harassment of women at workplace. Some of guidelines are as follows. Duty of employer or other responsible person in workplace and other institution women employees to prevent the commission of acts of sexual harassment. Courts also provided guidelines to all employers, public or private, for taking preventing steps. Disciplinary actions should be taken against the offender after providing the guidelines. Court said, accordingly, we direct that the guidelines and norms would be strictly observed in all workplaces for the preservation and enforcement of the rights to gender equality of the working woman. These directions would be binding and enforcement in law until suitable legislation is enacted to occupy the field.